All right, we're going to get this show on the road. So grab some food, grab a drink, grab a seat. Please come, and we have a lot of fun planned for you tonight. So maybe we could turn on Rick's mic, turn down the music, and...
I'm Rick Redmond, the outgoing chair of the Oshman Family JCC Board of Directors. It's my pleasure to welcome you to our 2021 annual meeting, which we've titled Community, Conversation, and a Concert. Tonight's very special. For many of us, this is the first time that we've been on the campus in over a year. This gathering is an opportunity to celebrate that the JCC has successfully weathered one of the most difficult years imaginable. Best of all, it's an opportunity to share a smile or an elbow bump with friends and colleagues. Tonight we'll be bidding farewell to 4 extraordinary board members, and we're also excited to welcome our newest members to the board. In addition, we'll have an ingenious musical performance incorporating the sonic capabilities of High, the new artwork in the Toby Tower. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Zach Bodner, our incredible CEO who successfully guided the JCC through the COVID storm. Zach?
Thank you, Rick. Thank you. Thank you, Rick. Thank you all for being here tonight. This is pretty incredible, right? Seriously, this is a major Shehechianu moment, right? I mean, welcome back to the Oshman Family JCC on the Toby Correct campus. Welcome back. It's been a long time. I think we should just take a moment to breathe this in and look around, and you all look a lot better than your two-dimensional images. Even with that whole touch-up thing on Zoom, everybody looks great. So, welcome back. I want to say a few thank yous before we jump in tonight, because we wouldn't be here tonight. This past year would not have happened but for my incredible team. This has really been a team effort. So where are you? Sally Flinchbaugh? Sally Porish? Stand up. Guys, stand up, please. Mark Holtzman. Stand up, Mark. Nathaniel Bergson-Michelson. Seth Leslie. This senior team has been incredible. They have worked tirelessly, and they have made sure that this campus, this JCC, whether live or virtual, has been a resource for the entire community this past year. And it's not just them. It's every single person here. So we have some other incredible staff that I want to thank. You all know Todd Milton. Where are you, Todd? Todd, say hi. Todd is our fitness and wellness director. He's the one who made sure that everything that was moved from inside to outside so our community could be healthy throughout this past year. Of course, our incredible Lauren Berman. Lauren, our Leslie Family Preschool Director, kept the preschool going through this past year. We have Ed Bancroft. Where's Ed? Is Ed here? Ed is making sure we had all the supplies, all the things that we need to make sure that we were going. And of course, we have the 3 amigos, the 3 amigas, Ronit, Tova, Luba. Raise your hands, guys, wave. They made sure that everything we did was brought online, and we created so much meaning for people throughout this past year. And of course, Julio Frenny and the entire AV team. Julio, wave. Julio had to figure out how to turn our AV operation into a bar mitzvah business and take his show on the road in everybody's backyard. So Julio, Nick, the whole team, you guys have done an incredible job. You know what I feel like? I feel like we have been like the aspen trees this past year. So I'm going to go through some slides. Here's the deal. Each of you has an iPad on your tables. You also have a QR code. You see that big funny looking thing? If you scan that image with your phone, you guys are going to be able to follow along the slideshows, because we realize it's hard to see this one screen, and maybe you can't all share the iPad on your table. So scan the QR code. If you have a problem, raise your hand. Raise your hand. One of the staff will come by and help you. But raise your hand. Here's the deal. Here's what I want to do tonight. I want to take you through what this past year has been like. We've had some ups and downs. It's been a tough year. And I want to tell you a little bit about what we have for the coming year. But I want to make this interactive. We've been sitting behind screens for far too long with people talking at us. This is going to be an interactive experience tonight, so we're going to have some multiple choice questions, okay? I don't want you to type an answer into the chat. We've been doing that for 15 months. I want you to just shout it out, okay? This is going to be a big, rowdy family dinner. I want you to shout out the answers. But I want you to take a breath first, because this past year we've been like the aspen trees. See if you can see the image of the aspen trees on your phone or your iPad. I don't know how many of you know this, but the aspen tree is the single largest organism on the entire planet. An aspen grove, a grove of aspen trees, which can cover over 100 acres. It can be 45,000 trees in a single grove. It all shares the same DNA. Shares the same DNA. So these trees could be fat, they could be thin, they could be tall, they could be short, but every single aspen tree in a single grove shares the same DNA, so it's anatomically, biologically, physiologically, the same single organism. And what's miraculous about these aspen trees is if one of the trees is hurting, if one of them is flailing, other trees will divert their own nutrients to that one tree to help it. It's an incredible organism. And that's what we've been like this past year, right? As members of our own community have been hurting and have needed extra help, we've diverted our resources to help those most in need. In our greatest moments this past year, we have been like the aspen groves, and it's been a tough year. It has been a really tough year. I don't have to tell you. You're out here enjoying the food, enjoying the wine, enjoying the drink for the first time in many, many months. So let's have some fun. Let's engage in a little bit of family feud action. Jesus for the win, right, Seth? All right, first question. When did we close our doors? All right, when did we close our doors? Did we, and here it is on the screens, I don't know if you could see it. Did we officially close our doors on February 28th, on March 16th, on March 23rd, or really maybe it was March 427th, because that's what it feels like right now? What's the answer? March 16th, that's right, that's the right answer, because who could forget, we made the announcement on Friday the 13th, right, on March 13th. I will never forget. We made this announcement. I was one of the last people to leave the building. I walked out, and there was this deafening silence. It was empty. And I bumped into Lauren Berman, and she's like, we were talking, and I started filming myself as I was walking through the campus. Lauren takes my phone, and I just started impromptu speaking to the camera because I was talking about the pain in my heart that I could feel having had to close these doors and not knowing when we were going to reopen. It was one of those situations where you just don't know what the future is going to hold. And yet that very next Monday morning, we came together as a team and we said, we have to get busy. And we formed a COVID task force that started meeting every single day to make tough decisions. We got a hotline to the Santa Clara County Public Health Department. Sally Porsche and Sally Flinchbaugh were on the phone with Santa Clara every single day. It was on their speed dial. We were immediately talking about what we needed to do with our bank, because we have this massive loan. They were expecting our payments, so Mark was on the phone with the bank. We were immediately working day and night to figure out what it was going to look like. And by April already, we knew we were going to have to make some tough decisions. So by April, we decided that we were going to have to furlough most of the staff. It was incredibly painful. We furloughed all of the 350 staff, we kept about 25 on full-time and another 75 in a very part-time capacity. It was incredibly painful. And Seth had already launched an emergency fund campaign where we raised $100,000 for the most vulnerable in our community. We were giving money to those folks who are not able to put food on the table, not able to pay their rent, and that's what it means to be community. We were immediately moving within weeks to make a difference, okay? And then, of course, we had to make some decisions about the summer. We knew summer wasn't going to be the same. So here's my next question for you. Which summer programs were we forced to cancel this past summer? Was it the Maccabi Sports Camp? Was it the Kol Isha women's trip? Was it the family trip to Israel, Raina? Or was it wearing pants during meetings? All of the above. That's right, Shane. It was all of the above. That's what it looked like. This past summer, we realized it was not going to look the same. And we had to make some very, very painful decisions very early on. Now, we were struggling with our budget because this was the end of June, beginning of July, and that's when our budget cycle goes, and we knew the money was hurting, and I get a call from Raina Rampel. Raina calls me and she says, Zach, I just had the weirdest dream. This is a true story, right, Raina? She says, I had this dream that her husband, Alex, my husband, is going to save the JCC. I said, okay, I don't know what that means. I didn't know we needed saving at the time. She said, I had this dream that Alex is going to save the JCC. So meanwhile, the government opens up these SBA loans, which have become known as the PPP loans, right? Remember these PPP loans? So Raina puts me in touch with Alex, her husband, who puts me in touch with a bank, and sure enough, Alex delivers our first $2.5 million PPP loan. So her dream came true. Alex literally helped save the JCC. Yes, she does. She deserves a round of applause. So, all right, we're in May. And by May, we already need to create some reopening teams. We know that we have to come together and figure out how are we going to get some people here on campus. So Sally Flinchbaugh starts to lead the reopening team. She builds a 70-page handbook on the protocols for reopening. She leads 8 reopening teams. We have the quarantine team, the testing team, the PPE team, the parking team, and we're figuring out what is it going to take. And meanwhile, we decided we need to prototype how to bring folks on campus. So Todd works with Jamie to have our first blood drive on campus. This is May, by the way, less than 2 months after COVID has shut us down. And we bring 40 people on campus with Stanford to do a blood drive and to figure out what it's going to look like. And we learn a lot from that. We absolutely learn a lot. So now we're moving into the summer months, okay? But before we do, we start getting some requests from members of our community saying, you need to help us out. We're really hurting. So they say, open up the field, because we've already closed, right? Open up the track and give us some access to that. So who were the community members? Next question. Who are the community members that were asking us for access to the track? Was it the Kahila students? Was it the Moldau residents? Was it the Hells Angels or the International Ostrich Racing Association? What do we think? Moldau. That's right, Val. It was the Moldau residents. And by the way, we realized we had to do this when we started seeing on the security footage Moldau residents peeling the fencing away, sneaking underneath the barriers to get on the track. Literally, if you want to see Jack Adler sneaking under the fence, we have the security footage for it. We said, all right, we have to do this. We know this is a lifeline for these Moldau residents, right? So in June, major events started to impact us. We recognized that my clicker's not working. This is a matter of, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'll keep going. So in June, we have 300 kids coming to our campus. 300 kids between the preschool camp and the J camp, 300 kids. We're the only game in town. We're the only ones that could have 300 kids on our campus. And ultimately, I was here the first day, and I can't tell you who was more excited. The kids who had these big grins on their face, like they're finally going to hang out with their friends, or the parents who barely slowed their cars down when they kicked the kids out. They were like, get out, I'm done with you, right? But it was an amazing experience. 300 kids came to our college campus. But there was also other crazy stuff happening this summer. The racial protests, and we're like, this summer is going to be a tough one, right? Okay, here's some images of our kids on campus. So now you can see what was going on. Next question. Summer comes around, we realize the money's getting tight, we have to make some tough decisions. We say, we're going to have to sever ties with one of our longtime partners in the community. So who do we sever ties with? Is it Burger King, Krispy Kreme, Exos, or El Al Airlines? Come on, you know the answer to this one. Exos, right, Exos. So for those of you who don't know, Exos was our outsourced fitness management company. Since the day we moved onto this campus, we've outsourced our fitness, and we realized we needed to do something different. We needed to save a little bit of money, and we knew that with Todd's leadership and Jamie, that we could make this pivot and bring the whole operation in-house. We did it. We saved $250,000 by bringing the fitness operation in-house. But now we have this team, and Sally Porsche and her HR team, they're working on a skeleton crew. They're working from home, like everyone else, and she has to onboard 100 fitness employees, and she does it. Miraculously, Sally and Todd and her people, they found a way to make sure that we could bring this family together. And so now we're ready to go. We're rare, and we're like, okay, summer's going to be big. We move fitness outside, right, Todd? We make sure that we can have fitness outside. We have these kids we start to get ready to install this beautiful high sculpture on the Toby Tower, and all of a sudden, we run into some roadblocks. Remember, there's something that pushes us back indoors. Do you remember what that was? Was it locusts? Was it frogs? Was it wild beasts, or was it wildfires? Yeah, it was wildfires. Remember, it was biblical though, right? It was like end of days stuff. You walk outside, the skies are orange, there's ash everywhere, and we're like, what the hell? We just got the kids here on campus. We just got the outdoor fitness. It's like somebody has some divine wrath against us. But we push through, and we get the preschool teachers back on campus by August, so we're training them. Like, we start to move things in the right direction. We feel like, okay, we can finally recover. And then there's fall right around the corner, and we're thinking, high holidays are here. People aren't going to be gathering in synagogues. They're not going to come together in person. What are we going to do? So Tova and the team, we figure we've already embraced virtual. Let's make the virtual experience a real one. So we launched this hashtag Shofar Together campaign. Remember Shofar Together? For the week in between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, we said, let's everybody blow the shofar at the same exact time of day around the world. We got 6,000 people around the world from JCCs all over to blow the shofar with us. We said, that's a pretty cool thing. We launched the Akedah project in a partnership with several other organizations to say, look, let's do a unique take on the story of the binding of Isaac. And that was the Akedah project. And that's what Tova and her team with Binah and Judaism Unbound and 929 put together. So we're fully embracing, as the fall comes, this whole idea of virtual. And then, of course, we run into the next challenge, which is, what are we going to be able to offer in person? Because the schools tell us, Palo Alto School District, Mountain View, Los Altos, are like, look, got bad news for you. We're not coming back. Maybe January we'll come back in person. So you guys figure out how to do this live. They put it on us. So we say, we got to figure out what we're going to do live. So next question for you. What do we have live and in person on campus? Is it Club J? Is it Beged Kefet? Is it our preschool? Or is it all of the above? All of the above, right? I mean, think about that. Think about that. The schools couldn't figure out how to bring their kids back, but we're bringing hundreds of kids to campus every day. We've figured it out. Again, that's the miracle of this incredible staff that had figured out how to bring. We had 600 kids in Beged Kefet. Ronit Jacobs and her team figured out how to also make it online, by the way, how to pivot this online. And our strength this past year has gained so much confidence that we are now the only Hebrew language program in the entire country to get accreditation that's valued at the UCs and the college system. By the way, that's pretty incredible during COVID to be able to pull that off. So then by the way, we have December. Winter comes and we're still in the online mode. We pull off this Z3 virtual conference. We go from having 1,000 people in person to having 5,000 people join us online. It's streamed all over the world. We raise almost $1 million. We have 30 JCCs saying, we want to do this with you. And this was the highlight of the winter of 2021, because then, of course, what happens is January comes, 2021, we're like, this is going to be over, right? The Capitol is stormed on January 6th. We have this huge COVID spike. It gets so close, we have a dozen COVID cases in Moldau. We're actually starting having people pass. So it gets that close to home. So winter hits a really low point because people have gone away on their vacations and they brought COVID home with them, and we're very, very worried. But January's not all that bad. There are some highlights in January. So here's the next question. What are the highlights from January that you can remember? Was it that we got our second round of PPP loan? Was it that we hosted a very successful virtual mitzvah day with over 1,000 people? Was it that we got access to vaccines for all of our staff? Or was it learning that January 21st was International Sweatpants Day? Yes, Amir, I know you're wearing hard pants today. You and Susan Saul, you put on the hard pants. Thank you for coming out. It was all of the above. All of the above. So January wasn't all that bad. And here's one of the incredible stories. You know, the vaccines start coming out, and in the first tier, educational institutions, remember this? Educational institutions are able to get their employees vaccinated. And you read the fine print, and it says it's not just teachers, but it's everybody who works at an educational institution. Marketing, HR, IT, finance, it didn't matter. So I said, we're going to get everybody here vaccinated. I call Rick Rudman, and Rick, in his infinite sage wisdom, he's like, you might want to check with the county first on that. And I'm like, look, this is very Israeli. We'll ask for forgiveness, not permission, you know? And he's like, just call the county. So Sally calls the county. She puts on her best song and dance, and the county's like, yeah, of course, you're an educational institution. So we immediately start getting everybody here vaccinated. We were one of the first institutions, and then we passed that on to other JCCs so they realize they can do the same thing. But think about that. We were able to say to the community, we're leading by example, we're getting everybody vaccinated, and you can come back. So you can feel good about it. So that was one of the highlights of the spring as we were starting to build up January, February, March, but it was tough. It was tough. We're still finally coming out of it, right? So then March, we see the 1-year anniversary of COVID. March, it's like, right? It's like, how did we get here a year later? We thought we were going to open on July 1st, 2020. And then we said, well, maybe September 1st. So now we see the 1-year anniversary. And we take a deep breath. And we got through this, but there was a lot of pain, a lot of loss this past year. And we say, it's time. We're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's time. Let's get together for an in-person event. What was our very first in-person event? Do you remember? What was our first, was it a giant hokey pokey? Was it our own Burning Man experience? Was it our community Passover Seder, or was it Oktoberfest? What do you think? Oktoberfest. It wasn't, I know you like the beer, Roberta, but it was spring, so it wasn't Oktoberfest. It was a community Passover Seder. Yeah. We pulled it off live here in person. And I have to tell you, Luba has story after story. We have this one older woman who comes to our senior programs whose husband passed away during the last year in pandemic, and she was locked herself in her house. She wasn't coming out. Her kids were worried that she was gonna pass because she was so lonely and depressed. She realized we're having this Passover Seder. She comes out for it, and it reinvigorated her. She woke up. Her kids credit us with saving their mom's life because we were able to bring her out of her home during this moment. So we're finally seeing this light at the end of the tunnel. We have the GMS graduation on the campus. We have Kahila High School graduation on campus. We get our next PPP loan. We get the JCRIF $1 million loan. We're starting to finally see this. And of course, spring brings our incredible online virtual benefit. Seth and the team, they did something amazing. They raised as much money as the year before, even though nobody got together in person. So it was an enormous vote of confidence in this operation and a lot of fun at the same time. And that's where we are today. We were a little bit late coming down here because the board just voted to approve next year's budget. Thank you to the board of directors for this vote of confidence, to Rick, to Tali, to Nicole, to Raymond. You guys have done an incredible job. You really have. You deserve a round of applause. So where does that leave us for this coming year? There's 6 areas that I want to touch on very, very briefly. Because while we were working on the short term, the immediate challenges, looking at our noses right in front of our faces all year long, we also had to plan for the long term. Right? We knew the fitness model was changing. Thank you very much, Peloton. All of you who bought Pelotons during this, feel free to leave right now, by the way. No, the fitness model was changing. The membership model was changing. This virtual, hybrid, online thing, it was all changing. So we had to think, what is our future business model going to look like? 6 quick areas. Number 1, wellness. We're pivoting our fitness operation to a full wellness operation, right? It's not just physical, but this last year, people realized spiritual, mental, emotional. So Todd and his team are looking at how to embrace the entire wellness, the meditation, the stuff that we know that is really, really going to matter. Number 2, families. Families were hit especially hard this past year. Anybody who is a parent of a young kid and had to sit with their kids during Zoom school, the parents themselves, the kids themselves. So we're going to make our family center more robust. We're going to be investing in that this coming year. Number 3, this idea of our Tachlis programming. Tachlis, remember, is this word that means brass tacks, getting down to business, but it's also an acronym. It stands for Tikkun Olam, Art and Culture, Community, Holidays, Learning, Israel, and Shabbat and Spirituality. That's the heart of what we do. And we had to go online this past year. Are we going to go back to in person this year? Are we going to be in parks? Are we going to be here? Are we going to be in people's homes? So we have to think about what that's going to look like for the coming year. Number 4 is this idea of a community hub. How do we make our place truly a third space? How do we become the Jewish Starbucks? Where you want to go and hang out. You open your laptop. How do we have parents come drop their kids off at school, work out, and stay here all day long? You've heard of WeWork. We want to be the we work, we live, we play, we hang out. That's what we want to create. That's the idea of this community hub. Number 5, we're looking at our schools and camps through a whole new lens. We have the brilliant leadership of people like Lauren Berman, of people like Josh Steinharder from our Maccabi camp, Dave Roosevelt, and we know that our number is going to be able to go back up this next year. What does that mean? What kind of resources do they need? We're going to be reinvesting in our schools and camps. And finally, we're going to be scaling our Jewish peoplehood work. The Z3, the Beged Kefet, the leap year. We're going to be taking it on the road because people are looking for it. People are asking for it. This is what this next year brings. We are not resting. We're not sitting back. There is no time for that. We have to make sure we continue to be a resource for the community. And just this week, I'll end with this. This is where we are today. We've opened up to you. On Monday, we're opening up to the whole. This is a soft opening, so feel free to give your feedback. But we are now open. You have the outdoor pool open. You have outdoor and indoor fitness open. You have people able to be here without masks. You have the locker rooms open. And on Monday, we're opening the place to the public again. The Oasis Play Space will be open. Our neighbors at Altair, people will be coming back on campus. It'll be like it was before March 16th, 2020. We're back. And all of you deserve a huge thank you for that. A huge thank you. So with that, I've said a lot. I've barely taken a breath, but we had to get through a lot in a short period of time. So again, just a huge thank you for your vote of confidence. To Rick, as an incredible chair of the board, you had your hand on the rudder this past year, and we couldn't have done it without you. To Tali Ronen, who's taking over, I'm really looking forward to working with you. To all of the board members, to our major donors, to Tad and Shayna for your vision for this incredible project. I can't wait for you to see it, for you to hear it. Richard, Rebecca, Ron, it's so exciting that you have built something that has never, ever been done before. And we're so excited that you're here to join us with this. So thank you. And right now, I'd like to bring up Nicole Rubin so she can thank our board members. Come on up, Nicole.
Hi, I'm Nicole Rubin, and I'm immediate past chair, and my last official duty as a board member for the Oshman Family JCC, which honestly has been the greatest privilege I could imagine, has been to chair our nominating committee. And so tonight I get to share with you, present to you our 3 new board members. And really, as an organization, this is the most important thing that we do as a board to continue our renewal. And so when I call your name, I'm going to ask you to stand up, please. But first, I would like to introduce David Rosenberg. He and his wife, Rachel. Yay! So David is the president and CEO of the Closet Factory of the Bay Area. And he and his wife, Rachel, have continued their family's 3-generation history with JCCs when they joined the Leslie Family Preschool with their daughter, youngest daughter. And Lauren Berman describes David as one of her very best recruiters for the preschool. So we are so delighted to have you, David, joining us. And Rachel, you too. Thank you. Next, I get to introduce Eran Sandhouse. Thank you. He's recently home from Israel, but he's managing director of Copia Growth Partners. He and his wife, Hagid, came from Israel and have been deeply involved in our ICC, ICON, and the JCC for many, many years, and so it's a real privilege to have you joining our board. Thank you. And then I also am very happy to introduce Sandra Spielberg. Sandra is an entrepreneur and an investor and the author of New Startup Mindset. She's a past board member of the Osher Marin JCC, and she's originally from Uruguay. And she and her husband, Phil, were on our very first JCC trip to Israel where her son had his bar mitzvah. Thank you, Sandra. So please join me in welcoming them. I'm so honored to be able to pass the baton to each of you. It's just an incredible group of people that you'll be leading with and the most extraordinary senior team that we could have ever dreamed of. So now it's my pleasure to turn it back over to Rick.
Thank you, Nicole. David, Eran, and Sandra, let me welcome you to the board. We're excited to have you, and I hope you take great joy from this service, as have I. Tonight, we'd also like to recognize 4 board members who are completing their board service. And I'd like to ask each one of them to come up to the front when your name's called so that we can give you a gift in appreciation of your service. Nicole Rubin preceded me as board chair and served as an exceptional model of leadership with wisdom, acuity, vision, and grace. Nicole? Amir Fantouche came to us as one of Intel's top executives and brought incredible strategic insight to our operation, from fitness to fiscal planning. Amir? Ted Zagat brought his startup mindset, tireless energy, and innovative thinking in his role as a board member. Ted? And finally, Rich Strzok, who can't be with us tonight, came to us as a co-founder of Avid Bank and brought us valuable insights on how to create a strategy to manage our debt more effectively. So for our friend Rich, so Nicole, Amir, Ted, and Rich, it's been a privilege to serve with you, and our thanks to each one of you. And now, Zach, I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you, Rick. All right, this is where we get to honor Rick as our outgoing board chair. Look, Rick, I just want to, like, there's almost no way to thank somebody appropriately who has captained a ship during this last period of time. But we found a creative way, Rick, that we think does your service justice. And I have to say, this was Sally Flinchbaugh's brilliance. But the community has come together to write a page of Talmud for you. So, for those of you who don't know what the Talmud is the seminal document of the Jewish people outside of the Torah, the Tanakh. It has all of our writings, the rabbinic canon over the years, and it's in two parts. There's a central part called the Mishnah, which is kind of the oral law, and then around it, it has the Gemara, which is the different thinkings of rabbis, the different interpretations over the centuries. It's kind of the first interconnecting networked document. The internet had nothing on the Talmud, right, Tova? So what we've done is we've created a page of Talmud for you, Rick, and I want to show everybody here what this looks like. Am I going to do this right, Monique? Okay, there you go. Look at this. It's called the Talmud of Rick Rudman. You get to bring this home, Rick, but we're going to read this to you tonight. We're going to read this one page of Talmud, and I'm going to start off by sharing the very middle, the Mishnah. It says the following: "And it came to pass that Rick Rudman, having outstandingly served the Oshman family JCC as board chair during years of great consequence in the land from 2019 to 2021, did pass on the gavel to a new leader. And there was wonder in the land, for Rick had led the people not once as chair, but indeed as interim CEO and interim COO, and yea, in many other roles besides. And while some about that place took note of Rick's unique ability to turn esoteric ideas into a roadmap for success, others celebrated Rick's unwavering moral character and strength of conviction. And still others maintained that Rick's finest characteristic was his kindness and gentle humor. Yet still all agreed that with Rick at the helm, there had been great calm and confidence at even the stormiest times. And as it says, we will miss Rick as chair, but his legacy will live on in the strength of the center. Thank you, Rick, from all of us in the community." That's the Mishnah, and from here, we have a little bit of Gemara to share with you.
"His kindness and gentle humor," said Sally Flinchbaugh. And lo, the first time this individual met with this vaulted leader, she slurped her French onion soup. Then did she make a solemn vow, never shall that happen again. Yet did this leader chide her? Nay, rather did he give her nothing but praise, vision, and hope. And the years went on, so he did continue to lift this one of his flock to great heights, and indeed was able to give strength to her and those around her through his wisdom, generosity, and his grids. And so we observe the frames in which this great leader thinks have shaped thoughts and dreams into realities and have yielded great good. His conviction in our mission has brought all of the flock under the tent and will continue to guide this individual and community for years to come.
At even the stormiest times, Mark Holtzman said, and the Jews of this infamous valley of technical innovation were prospering mightily under their legendary lay leader, Rick Rudman, until, unexpectedly, God severely burdened this great land with a series of plagues, including a deadly virus, fires, and floods from Moldau. The Oshman family JCC community looked toward their prodigious leader for guidance. How could they ever survive the horrors of this terrible era? Their wise and thoughtful sage provided his usual wisdom and prudent fiscal management, leading his people through 2 reforecasts and a bank loan refinancing. He led the Jews out of their despair and onward toward a new fiscal year of resurrection and revival, enabling this great center of Jewish peoplehood to return to its vibrant glory. The Oshman JCC family and their greater community are forever grateful for Rick Rudman, being truly blessed to have this spectacular creation of God in their midst.
and yea, in many other roles besides. Thus said my lovely wife, Sharon Leslie, who is tuning in from New York tonight on the stream. Hi, hon. As it came to pass many years ago, the Jews of the valley needed an interim leader for our intrepid center. Where would this leader be found? Who would this leader be? Lo, we need not be concerned, as Rick Rudman came forth as a steady and solid force. And he did not just lead once. No, with his soft voice and steady hand, Rick led as interim head chief, and then as chief of all things operational. Did he then ride or ski off into the sunset, satisfied with what he had brought forth in leadership for the JCC? No, he did not. Rick returned once again to serve on the board and as board chair. Through fire, pestilence, and plague, Rick's calm and wisdom saw us through. How does he attain such greatness as a mere mortal? His tools are thus deep intellect and understanding, patience and kindness. May we all grow to emulate Rick in our leadership and in our lives. Thank you, Rick, for what you have brought to our community and what you have taught each of us about being a mensch.
And while some about that took note of Rick's unique ability to turn esoteric ideas into a roadmap for success, and Tali Ronen said, "It has been said by the sages that while Rick Rudman was chair of the board, a great sickness fell over the land, and there was great confusion. And the board and the CEO and leadership team dealt with great hardship and quandaries of how to save the OFJCC during this unprecedented time. And they debated different strategies of this manner and of that, and then they turned to Rick. And the wise Rick Rudman replied to them thus: Ask yourselves, what worked well and does not need to be changed? What is not working and needs to be improved? And lastly, what is missing and needs to be added? And with Rick's guidance, the board and CEO, as well as the leadership team, executed their plan and used a stronger strategic direction. And from then onward, some about that place took note of Rick's unique ability to turn esoteric ideas into a roadmap for success.
With Rick at the helm, there had been great calm and confidence. Thus said Susan Saul. And the Lord said, let them have a leader who shall bring perspective, show patience when needed, and boldness when necessary, and be a gentle hand moving everyone in the direction of progress in all the times in between. And so came Rick Rudman to do this very thing, to be a wise, calming, and decisive presence in all places of decision-making. And in his leadership, he would notice the unique gifts that everyone else had to offer, and always encourage them to listen to the still small voice within them and blossom into the leader they were meant to be. And when called upon by any of his brethren, he would always make time to provide judicious counsel when the sun was in the sky and when the stars were above them for all the seasons of the years. And when the worst of times were upon the land, the community would take solace in knowing that his wisdom and kindness would keep them all in good stead. And he would set an example to the masses of what it meant to be a devoted husband, father, grandfather, friend, congregant, and community member. And when the days grew shorter and colder, Rick would travel long distances and affix long, flat wooden runners to his feet and glide down the snow-covered mountains to find solace. And when one day it came to pass that Rick stepped down from his post, the community rejoiced, for they were forever changed for the better and grateful for his mark on the land and its inhabitants, which was enduring, everlasting, and a gift to all of those who were fortunate enough to know him.
The commentary of Nicole Rubin. Rick has served as a leader of many Jewish institutions, but only through researching his Jewish journey did he discover his own personal ties to Judaism beyond his love for Roberta and the community they became a part of. Rick is steady, assured, thoughtful, and always prepared. His proper name may be Rick Redmond, but I like to think of him as E.F. Hutton. When he speaks, we all listen. His duty to serve is breathtaking. His personal relationships stand at the center of his work and life, and he is admired deeply for following through on every promise he makes. Rick is a wonderful partner in work and in advancing the causes of Jewish life, and he was the perfect leader at the most uncertain times. With admiration, we thank you for your remarkable service to the JCC, your strong partnership with the JCC staff, and your inspirational leadership of our board. Thank you.
The commentary of Linda Kurtz. Across the land, Rick has led through good times and bad times, carefully listening to all voices, inspiring others to bring their best selves to the effort. But his dedication to the JCC is particularly remarkable. When asked, Rick won't hesitate to provide his exceptional leadership skills and service to the JCC. So while Rick is stepping down from a formal role, you can be certain the center will benefit from his wisdom in the years to come. That's just who Rick is. And since I learned so much from Rick in the past 20 years we've worked together, I want to express my gratitude for his generosity of time and spirit, and especially his friendship. May blessings surround you, Rick, now and always.
And while Daryl Messenger couldn't be here with us tonight, I have the honor of reading Daryl's commentary. Rick Rudman has many gifts. One in particular immediately comes to mind. Rick is the personification of a non-anxious presence. I was sure that Rick would turn me down when I called him in December 2012 with the news that Alan Satelloff was leaving and that we needed someone to serve as interim CEO immediately. After all, while Rick was finally retired, he was actively engaged as a community mediator and playing golf regularly at some ridiculously early hour, 5:30 a.m., a couple of mornings every week. But Paul Resnick and I thought, if nothing else, he might have some ideas about who else might be interested. He came to meet me with a detailed outline of the job he was prepared to do. I was blown away. Rick's understanding of what was required in that moment far exceeded my ability to articulate our needs. He calmed the senior team, secured our negotiations with First Republic, and provided me, Paul Resnick, and incoming board chair Sharon Leslie with peace of mind. I will always be in his debt. I remain in awe of his ability to lead, to mentor, and to inspire confidence and conviction in others.
Rick, we turn it over to you. This is yours. You get to bring it home. You get to put it on the wall. But on behalf of all of us here in the entire community, not just here at the Oshman Family JCC, but the whole greater Jewish community here, thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your friendship. We're indebted to you.
This limp is what happens when you play too much golf. What an incredible tribute. It's the most creative one I've ever seen, and I want to thank each one of you from the bottom of my heart for making such a special evening for me. And that starts with Zach and our partnership over the years. So thank you very much for this meaningful tribute. I truly feel honored. And all of your comments moved me. I want to start by thanking my wife, Roberta, and my son, David, for their support of my work as a volunteer in our community over the past 3 decades. I couldn't have done it without you, and I love you very much. I don't need to tell anyone here that this has been an unusual year. In fact, in my service on various community boards, this has been the most challenging experience I've ever faced. But it's also been one of the most rewarding. Because of how well this board and staff work together, we're now coming out of the pandemic stronger than ever. I'm deeply grateful to have had a chance to serve as chair. One of the many opportunities I had on this board was to chair a task force identifying 4 values that define the Oshman Family JCC. Jewish, welcoming, pioneering, and collaborative. And before I officially hand over the reins, I want to reflect briefly on those 4 values and how they describe what this work has meant to me. Our first value is Jewish. I joined this board for the first time in 1990 when it was called the Albert L. Schultz JCC. It was a smaller operation then, but what has never changed is its Jewish character, its warmth, and the important role that it plays in lives of families, individuals, and community. Those qualities have been extremely important to me both here and in my service at Congregation Beth Am and Stanford Hillel as well. In total, I have 50 years of service on boards of community organizations. It's been the most tangible way that I'm able to fulfill one of our most fundamental Jewish obligations, that of tikkun olam, repairing the world. So to our 3 newest board members, I hope that you will find as much fulfillment as I have in doing your own tikkun olam work alongside the board colleagues. I think you'll discover them to be one of the most capable, most committed, and warmest groups of leaders in the Jewish community. I'd love to blame it on the wind, but I had it stapled together. Here we go. Our second value is collaborative. I've always been exceptionally proud of how well our board and staff partner with one another. This has never been more true than in this difficult year when we've had to make some heartbreaking decisions and take big leaps of faith. The board and the senior staff have collaborated closely and drawn deeply upon the organization's values to help us make these decisions. My perspective on collaboration between board and staff is shaped by a unique opportunity that I had in 2013, one that lay leaders rarely get. When the board began its search for a new CEO in 2013, I served as the interim CEO until Zach was hired, and then as the interim COO until Sally came on board. That allowed me to work alongside on a daily basis with the professional staff and to get to know the employees at every level of the organization. So to our staff, I want to thank you for your dedication and expertise, and to tell you that I continue to take pride in calling you my colleagues. Our third value is welcoming. The Oshman Family JCC has always been a warm and welcoming space, but this year in the midst of COVID, we've had to think outside the box and create new ways to welcome people. Through virtual conferences and programs, by turning ourselves inside out to hold fitness and group classes outdoors, and by making COVID safety into a new opportunity to welcome people onto campus. In thinking about this as a place of welcome, I want to acknowledge how much happiness I've gained from the warmth and support of my board colleagues. So to my colleagues on the board, I want to thank you for the trust you've extended to me to serve as your chair, and for how generously each of you has given of your time and counsel. Our final value is pioneering. This organization has never rested on its laurels, but is constantly innovating. And this year required us to be more nimble and flexible than ever. Our enormous Z3 conference went from a day under the tents to a week of virtual panels. We established new partnerships with JCCs, media organizations, and hubs of Jewish learning throughout the world. We learned how to do Zumba by Zoom and how to hold drive-through holiday celebrations. And when we finished the 2-decade-long project of constructing this campus by adding the art to the Toby Tower, it was by commissioning a team of artists who created more than just a sculpture, but a living work of art that joined sculpture and architecture and music. Across these roles and years, it's been a pleasure and an honor to have served an organization that lives these values. Through them, we create joy, wellness, learning, and a sense of belonging for so many. Thank you so much for this opportunity. It's been one of the most special ones of my life. Thank you. Now, to Tali Ronan, our incoming board chair. I'm so pleased, both for you and for the Oshman Family JCC, that I'm able to hand the gavel over to you. You have immense community experience through your leadership at Gideon Hauser Day School and the Jewish Community Federation, not to mention the numerous committees and roles that you've taken on here. You bring wonderful Jewish knowledge as well as deep background in organizational development. Your own professional and personal experience give you solid and intimate knowledge of the many aspects of what the JCC does, from Pilates and wellness to children's education to our Israeli and peoplehood programming. And you bring to the role of chair a spirit of thoughtfulness, curiosity, compassion, and courage, not to mention the high regard of your board colleagues and staff. I cannot think of anyone better prepared to be chair, nor anyone who better represents our core values: Jewish, welcoming, pioneering, and collaborative. Congratulations, and everybody please join me in welcoming our new chair, Tali Ronan.
Thank you, Rick. This is a new gift I got during COVID, so I'm going to use it. I would like to thank the board for entrusting me with the role of chair. I'm humbled and deeply honored by the confidence in me. This past year has been challenging like no other. The pandemic has seriously disrupted our lives, and consequently, the JCC has faced many challenges. I want to thank the entire board, especially Rick, who led the board during these turbulent times, and to Zach and the leadership team for all you have done as we navigated the organization through these unforeseen circumstances. Most importantly, I would like to thank our community, our members and families, our donors and funders for sticking with us and trusting us over the last year. Your continued support strengthens us and makes our endeavors possible. Now, more than ever, the JCC is serving as a locus for the community after a long year of isolation. Here, we strive to create a welcoming space where everyone is counted and welcomed. I look forward to working with our community to rebuild, reshape, and strengthen the JCC in the coming years. Thank you.
So it is my great pleasure to introduce Richard Deutsch and Ron Shalom, the artist and musician behind this amazing Chai sculpture. But before I do that, I want to thank our donors, starting with Tad Toby, Shayna Penn, and Toby Philanthropies for the lead gift in making this incredible thing happen. To Barbara Oshman, Carol Seiler Roberts, Nicole and Amir Rubin, Carol and Harry Saul, Dorothy Sachs, Lawrence Seif, and Maya Adams. Without your generosity and your vision, this would have never come to fruition. The results are quite extraordinary. We are so thrilled to be here tonight to share this sculpture with you. The process in making this work it involved people across all ages of this community and culminated in such an awe-inspiring piece. It feels like cherry on top of the 11-year journey that we made coming to build this beautiful Toby Correct campus of Jewish life. I guess actually I should probably say pomegranate. The timing of this project's unveiling couldn't be better, as we're reopening our campus, inviting the community to come back. This interactive community sculpture expresses the joy and excitement that we feel about this time. And now to our incredible artists. Richard Deutsch is a true visionary. Over the last 30 years, he has fostered imagination and inquiry required to design sculpture and public art environments of stone, water, bronze, and stainless steel. The recipient of numerous awards, including the fellowships from the American Academy in Rome and the National Endowment of the Arts. Deutsch creates work that is marked by an understanding of space and environment, conceived for particular architectural or social contexts. Complex programs and rich histories are distilled to art projects with simple sculptural forms and strong visual impact. Richard is committed to creating work that is thought-provoking and accessible, and through art's intangible power, builds community and sustains interest over time. Concepts, layers of meaning, the organization of form and space, and the human experience are all central to his exploration. Among his commissions for sculpture and art-integrated environments are significant projects at Stanford, the Oakland Museum of California, and major urban plazas, including San Francisco, Oakland, and Washington, D.C. His sculpture is in the permanent collection of San Francisco's DeYoung Museum and the Smithsonian Institute. This piece of work would not have been possible without his daughters, the collaboration with his daughters, who, in their own right, are incredible artists. Sylvie is an interdisciplinary and collaborative artist, teaches studio art at De Toledo High School, and serves as the art director for their studio art program. Her teaching and art practice revolve around building community, creating conditions for collectivity, joy, awe, and play through art. I mean, this is it, right? Rebecca, who's joined us tonight, is an artist and educator whose work investigates new ways that performance, public art, and storytelling can be used to create meaningful and responsive and transformative experiences for youth and communities. Her theater and public artwork are highly collaborative and have been developed in communities across Greece, in New York, Ohio, Los Angeles, San Francisco, and at Harvard University, where she received a master's degree in arts education. And lastly, Ron Shalom. The music that we are going to hear tonight was created by Ron. He is a musician and theater maker. He's often engaged as a producer, composer, and sound engineer, as well as for art direction. Minivan is his electro-pop drag show featuring custom lights, original music, costume, and instructional dance. Furs Yenri is the ensemble of percussion, strings, and voices that perform his music. He is also a member of the Consort, a composers collective. Recent residencies include the Watermill Center, Space Gallery, 10 Forward, and Rhizome DC. We're talking real artists here, people. And now, please welcoming and inviting Richard up to tell us about the process of the high sculpture. Thank you.
Sally, that introduction was more than 3 minutes. She wanted me to, Well, you wanted me to stick to 3 minutes, and my 3 minutes is almost up. One of the great joys of doing this project has been just getting to know everybody here. We've been, I've been up on the scaffolding. I'm sure that you've seen everything go in, but we've had to take the wall apart, put it back together, do lots of welding, put the mosaic up. And while I've been doing that, I've been observing how charming this place is. The kids, the mothers, the fathers, all the comings and goings of the activity here. And one of the people who's been quietly observing this whole process for the past couple of years has been Peter Wu, the gardener. I don't know if a lot of you might know him, but he's a constant fixture on this campus, and he's the guy that cares for everything here. So when Ron and I were putting up this sound system, he pulls me over and says, "I've got this story I've got to tell you." He said, we put this up in one day. It's taken 1.5 years to make it, but in one day we put it up so that everybody all of a sudden sees the sculpture. So Peter said that Rabbi Joey was walking in, and he looks at it and goes, "What's this?" And Peter then looks at him and says, "But Rabbi, you're the rabbi. Don't you know this is the antenna to God?" And so then the rabbi says, "Well, I have got to learn how to use this thing." So and I was grateful that Peter shared that story with me. But anyway, this has meant a lot to me on so many levels. One is that when I first came into this, I was brought into this by Ronit Widman Levy, who was your director at one time here, and she was integral in kind of ushering us in, and also part of our conceptual team at the beginning. And we're so appreciative of her input on it. And from then on, we have been just so warmly welcomed, and it's been just a pleasure. Zach's thoughtfulness when we were forming this was so wonderful. Part of the beginnings of what we do is we come in and we get to know your community. So we developed these workshops that we did with your seniors and your preschool, with your board members, both past and present. We did some workshops that Rebecca did with the School of the Arts, and so we got to know everybody, and we plied you all with questions and with drawings, and just to gain direction on what you all felt and believed. My philosophy in creating place of making art is to understand and embrace the experience, even more so than thinking about the object. We want to understand what is it the experience that we want to create. We've spent a lot of time in Italy, and I was there studying. I studying plazas and how people enter spaces. And one of the great experiences that I've had is, and I'm sure a lot of you have had that same experience, when you walk into a plaza or a space and you hear the church bells ringing, and you hear maybe somebody in the church playing Bach, and it just stops you in your tracks, and you actually breathe differently. It interrupts your day in a way that that nothing else could. And I felt like that's what this plaza needs. We need to somehow bring that kind of atmosphere into this very busy plaza. We need to have an experience that could be a collective experience where we had something that was interactive. So once we developed that, can you hear in the back there? Yeah, okay. Once we developed what the experience was, then we started deciding what the piece was going to be. And Rebecca and Sylvie said it has to be an instrument, and we started working from there. I mean, it's a roundabout way of getting there, but in my eyes, it's a very direct way. Once we decided that we wanted to make an instrument, enters Ron Shalom, our genius in New York, who we begged to come and work with us. Okay, so the other thing that I observed was how dynamic this community is. From your seniors to everyone that is here, your preschool, this is just a jamming, highly dynamic community of people, and we wanted a piece that was that way. In fact, we even titled it Chai before we created the piece. We knew that that life was something that we wanted to celebrate. Okay, Rick, you read yours. I'm gonna read mine. Okay, so at first we had a clean slate. We started, and since we knew we wanted to make a musical piece, we started looking at the history of Jewish sound, from Hebrew prayer to the organs filling the synagogues during the Enlightenment period in the 1800s in Europe, to Israeli folk songs, to the Borscht Belt comics and vocalists in New York at the beginning of the 20th century, with the avant-garde American Jewish composers who revolutionized how we hear sound: Irving Berlin, the Gershwins, Leonard Bernstein, and countless others. We looked at brilliant composers and soloists such as the Polish soloist Isaac Stern and Itzhak Perlman, and on. We had a long history of Jewish sound that celebrates us and points towards our continuing creativity, our expression, our sophistication, and our imagination. Our goal, although lofty, was to honor this history and to build upon it. That's why we asked Ron Shalom to join our team. Ron is a brilliant composer, thinker, whose focus is both in classical and 21st century music and sound. Ron works and invents electronic sound systems while composing his music, and he has invented this sound system, which you'll hear in a few minutes. So we are very excited to kind of show you how this actually works and what it does. In addition, I worked with the Fire Clay, the clay company, to develop all of these colors, and then also the patterns, and so they were terrific. All right, so the layers of symbolism, I mean, seriously, the Jewish values must be reinforced and amplified back and forth for their energy to continually to transmit through time. If we want the sound metaphorically that we make now to resonate, Lador Vador, and generation to generation, then our sound, our songs, our story, our creativity must be made to carry forward into the future. And truthfully, that is what this means. This is, these forms to me symbolize generation to generation, and this place symbolizes Lador Vador. We also wish to evoke what we call the Jewness, the two-ness of Jewness, the two-ness of Jewishness as a primal division of the Genesis, separating light from dark, the parting of the sea, and the sea from the sky. Our design also alludes to the transformation sparked by the two tablets of the covenant and the parting of the Red Sea. So our instrument Chai is an instrument that can be engaged with on many levels, created for your community. It can be developed into the future. It's like a work of art that's going to continue to evolve. And as musicians come here and play it, as your community plays it, so the instrument actually evolves. The software will evolve, and the programs that are involved with the instrument will also evolve. So we see this only as the beginning of what we're providing for you. And I don't, Rebecca, did you want to say a few words? Ladies and gentlemen, Rebecca Deutsch.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rebecca Deutsch. I'm a playwright and a sculptor and an elementary school teacher in Oakland. I met many of you when we came here 2 years ago, when you welcomed us with such open hearts, shared your stories, drew pictures about your hopes, your values, shared with us what you want this world to be. We have since built an instrument that's purpose is now to be explored, to be played, to be loved by this community. This courtyard we're sitting in, this courtyard sits at the convergence of so much life. How rare it is to have a preschooler and a grandmother and a rabbi all cross paths on their way home, but then stop and look up because the sky began to sing. The possible futures for this artwork are vast and wide open. a composer series that brings contemporary musicians from around the world to explore new music, to work with the children here, to share with us new perspectives, new approaches to music, reflections, and meaning with this community. A storytelling program, perhaps, for the 2-, and 3-, and 4-year-olds here from the preschool and the elders in residence here. The Jewish playwright Moises Kaufman, he said that imagination is the only thing that can save us from ourselves. When I stand under this artwork and hear it erupt in sound, it takes me into my imagination. I imagine a dancer, a choreographer, mapping movement using the sculpture as environment and soundscape. I imagine the sculpture as a vessel for oral histories, a storytelling prompt, a weekly question, say, that is asked to every member of this JCC, just as we asked you on day 1 at our board workshop. What makes you feel Jewish? What makes you feel alive? Tikkun Olam, what in your world needs repair? I imagine the artwork like a shofar, singing out the responses, a waterfall of voices that flows out of the tower, the 4-year-old, the grandmother, and the rabbi, Hebrew, English, Yiddish, all together equally profound, honest, and present. I imagine this artwork as a vehicle for introspection and public reflection, as a way of gathering and sense-making. I'm so excited for us all to bring it to life together. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ron Shalom. I'm the composer and sound designer. Thanks. Shall we hear what the sculpture sounds like? Cool. So you can play it with your phones. It's a website, this interface that I've designed. And I'm gonna put a QR code up here so that you can come and scan it with your devices, and then you can play the instrument too. And right now, I'm gonna play you a piece that I wrote for the inauguration of this musical instrument, and the piece is called To God's Ears. Thank you. So I just want to say a few words. I arrived here at the JCC in Palo Alto for the first time 2 weeks ago, and we built this thing from the ground up and had to make a whole lot of decisions really fast. And in that time, I got to see the sculpture for the very first time, hear the sculpture for the very first time, and meet all of you for the very first time. It's been a whirlwind. Thank you for having me. Thanks for having us. I just want to say that you are clearly all prudent, business-minded people. You wouldn't be here tonight if you weren't. And we have built a tool, an instrument, that is as useful to you as you choose to make it. So these programs that Zach has mentioned of holistic wellness, Jewish peopleness, the schools, the summer programs, this is here for you for that. And I promise you that the financial and spiritual investment that you put into this instrument will return to you exponentially. And we would love to be a part of the decisions that you make to use this instrument as a nexus of Jewish life here at the JCC. So please come, scan the QR code, I'll bring my computer up, play the instrument for yourself, and move around while you're playing it because it sounds totally different ricocheting off the walls of the campus out here and over here with your ear inside the tube. You have to hear it intimately and distantly from multiple perspectives. Come talk to us, come say hi. We'd love to hear from you what you are thinking about for possibilities for the future with this instrument and for this campus, artistic life at the campus. I hope this is a gentle reintroduction to you from the trauma of COVID to embracing cultural life again, which sounds like has been truly, profoundly important to the JCC here. And it is my deepest wish that the work that we have done here is an asset to you to reintroduce that vital component of the JCC. So thank you so much for having us. This is the High Sculpture. Please come say hi. Have a great night.
Thank you to Richard, Rebecca, Ron for the beautiful performance and art sculpture. We're thrilled that this beautiful piece of art finally completes the Jessica Lynn Style Town Square here on the fabulous Toby Corrett Campus for Jewish Life, which was designed to include a special art installment. We have concluded our program for tonight. Thank you all for joining us. We look forward to seeing everybody in person on campus soon. Good night and Laila Tov.